We can start? Oh, okay. Can you also check if that mic is working?
He's the president.
Just you need to have it quite close to your mouth. That's why they can't hear it. It's very, very sensitive. So it needs to be quite close to your mouth as you speak.
Is that okay? Is that okay? Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasul. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I apologize for the late delay because our webmaster is not here. His kids are ill, so he was instructing Yahya how to start the thing. And as we use a number of different mediums for broadcasting, there's the radio station, there's Facebook, there's YouTube. So that's the reason for delay. Today we have with us our brother from The Hague, Rakib. As you know, Holland has a very big Jamaat, and just in The Hague, I think there are 4 Jamaats. And there's one that is called the Stichting. Basically it means the trust. And they mainly engage in things like translations of the literature and printing and so on. You may recognize the names of the previous presidents and so on, like Nur Sardar and Husseini, Brother Husseini, etc. So Brother Rakib belongs to that Jamaat, and of course we are today especially honored to have our sister from Canada among us. We are in contact over Facebook and so on, and sometimes we exchange messages, etc. Would you like to say a few words to start off with, or at the end?
You carry on with the function.
No.
What's the program?
Well, this function is going to be very brief because it says here, introduce and invite Zahida to speak.
All right. Are you sure?
Yes, please.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu rasulah. As you guys know, I'm Zahida Haidal. I'm the Vice President of the Jamaat in Toronto, Canada. And I'm very pleased. Every time I've come to England, I have attended this Jamaat. I think a lot of you know me by now. And I was not as an eloquent speaker as my brother Kamal, Maulana Kamal Haidal, who probably a lot of you know. However, I do work to try my utmost to keep the Jamaat alive. We have a small Jamaat, as you know, in Toronto. A lot of us are getting older. I think it's something that all the Jamaats around the world, I've spoken to many people, and it's something that all the Jamaats around the world are facing right at the present moment, is that the older ones of us are, eventually will be facing our Creator. And we have to do something to instigate or to encourage the younger people to participate. I am in contact with a very young guy in Trinidad, I think maybe, and I'm encouraging Arif Rahman. I don't know if any of you know Arif Rahman. He puts on his, he does some of the radio programs in Trinidad. He's nephew of Nariman, who is Kamal's wife. And I have spoken to Arif, and what we should do to keep the Jamaat alive is to form some kind of youth, you know, some kind of cohesion with the youths, form some kind of a youth group, Ahmadi youth group, whatever you may call it. But they have to make their choices, they have to make their decisions. Of course, they have to keep within the fold of the, you know, the teachings of the Ahmadi movement. Arif is quite involved, and Arif is prepared to do that. So I told Arif, you know, there are a lot of young people in Trinidad who are willing to do this, and we have a few young people in Toronto. As you know, these Western countries are very big, and many of you probably live quite far from here, and you have to make an effort to come. It's the same thing in Toronto. People come when we have events, because places are far. It takes 45 minutes to get, you know, especially if you have a function in the morning like Eid and that. We have it at 9 o'clock, and you hit the 401 and the highway is just backed up for an hour. So these are the kind of problems that the people nowadays are facing, which we didn't have even when I came to Canada 50 years ago. That was not the case at all. We could get there within 15 minutes. That's life in the fast lane of the modern world we live in. Assalamu alaikum. And we have to see what kinds of problems the youths are facing, and they have to deal with their issues. And there are a lot of questions that they need to be answered. Fortunately, some of the older ones, like myself and Kamal, and Shahid Aziz, Dr. Aziz, and you know, we are still around to, you know, guide people. I have basically taken a back seat. I still hold the reins by keeping the vice presidency, but the young people are doing the work, and I'm very pleased that Allah has given them that ability. Some of them grew up in the Jamaat, they have remained in the Jamaat, and but as you say, we're few and far between, and we have to do something to keep, you know, people are going to feel that, you know, they're so small that why should we? And that is something we're facing. You know, unless we have a building, we have a freehold building, but it means nothing if it's not filled. And we're very fortunate that the people we have maintained their, you know, relationship with the Jamaat, and the young people are now ready to work. But we have to guide them along. And I told Arif we're going to form this Ahmadiyya youth movement, but it'll be an offline kind of social media kind of thing if you want. So I told him I'll contact him after I come back from England, and I have met Rakib, and I'm sure Rakib will give me a few young people's names from Holland or whatever. And we have to change the focus of our Jamaat. We're going to live within the teachings of the Ahmadi movement, which we all know we have to. But if we don't, the books mean nothing if we don't use them. And somebody came to me the other day from another Jamaat, and he asked to buy Religion of Islam. Well, we don't even stock Religion of Islam because everybody's downloading it. You know, we may spend $500 that we can more fruitfully use for Jamaat purposes, and nobody's going to buy them. They'll sit on a shelf because everybody's downloaded. So I told him, you know, this is, you can get it, you can contact Ohio or England and get the books. We just don't stock them anymore. So those are kind of things that we are facing now that we didn't have 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So we have to change the way we perceive things, the way we do things, and we have to, most of us are committed, who have committed our lives to this Jamaat, are getting older, and this is something we have to look at. And I am doing my utmost. I'm in the autumn of my life, and I'm doing my utmost to try to instigate or keep the younger people within the Jamaat. We find even, we have a few Pakistani members from the Jamaat who are as committed. Their parents were very committed to the Jamaat. I think maybe some of you know Mansoor and Usman Malik. They are in Toronto, but somehow we cannot, we live far from each other, from the mosque. So if we could keep them online so that we could exchange ideas, and you know, once a month, once every 3 months or whatever, however, anyway, people have busy lifestyles now. It's not like when we were growing up, you know, there's everything now, you know, there's so much else to do besides. So this is what I propose to do, inshallah. When I go back home, I hope to get a few names of some young people. I don't know, young doesn't mean, you know, under 25 or whatever. It just means people who want to commit themselves to the Jamaat and who will, even Shahid and I can work together and we can keep the Jamaat alive. I tried to form an American with Sister Zubaida's son, Shahid too, right? Shahid Ahmad.
Yes, yes,
Shahid and I tried to form an American type of thing. Somehow that didn't pan out because it was not the right opportunity. And it was like a chat room. And the chat started and they stopped. But so we have to learn from our experiences that it has to be an active, interactive. And you know, so I'm not as qualified in the technology as some of the younger people. And we do have younger people who know far more than I with respect to technology. So that's my little spiel for today. But as I said, we're very, very lucky to be, you know, be in this Jamaat. You know, Islam means so much to us because we see it from a different perspective. We don't see. And Trinidad has I don't know if any of you have ever heard the radio program. They have a radio program every Friday. It's called, and their little thing is a better Islam. I have a little problem with that, but they say that, you know, I don't like the word better, but that's how they put it out. And it's not the kind of Islam we're seeing. We know Islam has a very bad name now, even in Canada, I'm sure in England too. You know, just the other day we had a guy walking down the street. His name was Faisal Hussein. He walking down the street and he just shot people point blank for no legitimate reason. Whether he was a Muslim or not, he did have a Muslim name and he did come from a dysfunctional family, but that's not our business. The fact is, it's portrayed in the media out there, another Muslim. So we know, all of us know that that is something we face. And in our Jamaat, we know we have, like somebody from Holland told me, not Brother Hussein, Hikmat, remember Hikmat? Hikmat told me once, we have 24 karat gold, but we have it locked away. Now is the time to open the vault. And that was his, and I think the time has come when we have to collectively look at how to maintain our Jamaat, internationally, locally, and otherwise. Thank you. I hope this is meaningful for all of us. Oops.
Thank you. Thank you, Sister Zahida. I think your Jamaat has a Facebook page on which well, it's got your photograph, so you can't deny.
I'm not too big on these kind
Yes.
of things, the young people.
So a couple of times a week I
Who do you talk to usually?
well, I don't, there's no one that I talk to, but I update it and put a link to one of our khutbahs or whatever.
Yeah, I do get that. Yeah.
And so on. And you were referring to old people. I mean, I look around and I don't see any old people. I see young people and even younger ones.
I have to claim I'm
But no, you're correct in that. You see, the point about propagation is that and Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahab taught us this, that when photography was invented, when everyone else was saying it's haram and un-Islamic and this and that, he hunted out a camera and he had it sent to Qadian with a photographer and had photographs taken and printed. And the point he made was that by looking at someone's face, people can tell whether he's a crook or a genuine person or not. So let them see my photograph, let them see photographs of, the group around me, and let them judge. Again, the same thing with sound recording. When he heard about that, he hunted around and had a machine taken to Qadian, and he wrote a special poem for that, which starts off, "Ye awaaz aa rahi hai jo phonograph se." I can't remember the rest of it, but I remember the first, the voice that is coming from. They used to be called photographs at the time, and so on. And not only that, I mean, you find mention of Hazrat Sahib, not mention of Hazrat Sahib, but Hazrat Sahib's letters being printed in the Chicago Tribune. And we are talking about, the last years of 1800s, that he would write a letter and Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Ali or someone would translate that into English, and it would be sent there. Because there was a man in America who claimed that he was the Messiah and God had raised him to destroy Islam and the false creed of Muhammad and so on. So when Hazrat Sahib heard that, he wrote a letter, and then the English people, Doi and so on. So I mean, the amazing thing is that he was aware of those things, and he was responding to them. But the thing is, he was using the latest technology, whatever was available: photography, sound recording, newspapers, etc. And I mean, to a degree, I agree with Muhammad. There's, I say this to my wife, there's no point in having nice jewelry if you don't show it off, So there's no point in having 24 karat teaching if you don't share it. I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had a meeting in the House of Commons, and I took some books, Islam, Peace and Tolerance. You must have seen that, Zahid's book. And I gave that to the MP that I had the meeting with, and also I gave her copies for the Prime Minister, I gave her copies for the Home Secretary, etc. Then I think perhaps last week or the week before, I was invited to a function where the general who's in charge of defending London in case of attack, he met community leaders and so on. And I gave him a copy of Islam, Peace and Tolerance, and his adjutant, I forget his name, Colonel someone or other. And I met a Muslim there who's a sergeant major in the army, and he said, "Oh, would you like the army to come and talk to your community?" And I said, "Yes, I will put your suggestion to our board of directors, but then in return I want to be given an opportunity to come and talk to your army staff about Islam and its true teachings." So we are negotiating on that. Again, we had Metropolitan Police here, was it last week or this week? This Thursday. This Thursday. And the guy who was here, he had a chat with Banu and myself. And it was mainly to check security at the building and so on. And he's emailed me, and he said that, you know, if officers of the Metropolitan Police need someone to go and talk to them about Islam, he'll keep us in mind. But, you know, that is by going out and talking to people. If we just, you know, sit at home and take out our silver and polish it every now and then and think it looks beautiful, that the rest of the world is not going to recognize that or realize that. So, I mean, this is just within these last couple of months. And people are surprised by our view of Islam. There's a group called Discuss, and you can become a member, it's free. And when someone posts a question, what happens is that the question comes to you, and then when people reply, the replies come to you as well. And you can comment, you can join in. There's a chap called Dr. something, Ijaz Naqvi, in United States. He writes articles, and he wrote one about can Muslims and Jews and Christians live together, and he put it up, and there was a lot of discussion and conversation. And particularly one American professor of Islam, she kept going back to what Imam Ibn Kathir wrote, what Ibn Husham wrote, what's written in Jalalain. And my reply to that is fine. I mean, she says doctrine of jihad. I said, well, in America you had the Monroe Doctrine, and that was followed by another doctrine named after some other president. And her reply was that, well, the Quran is, the point I made to her was that in 1939, all the Japanese in the United States were rounded up and put in concentration camps. And what was their crime? They were Japanese. They hadn't done anything wrong. It was simply that they were Japanese. US was at war with Japan, so they just took them and put them all in concentration camps. And so I said to her that this matter went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said this is perfectly constitutional. President Roosevelt was right to do that. But I said the same Supreme Court later on, 40, 50 years later, said that this was the most, I mean, I can't remember the word that they used was, despicable decision taken by the Supreme Court to say that it was lawful. So I said, look, one set of your judges came to one conclusion, and another set of judges came to a different conclusion and called the first decision despicable. And she said, yes, but the Quran is God's book. And I said, I'm not talking about the Quran, I'm talking about interpretation of the Holy Quran. If you talk about Imam Ibn Kathir said this, he is a human being. He did wonderful work which may have been relevant at his time, but I don't find it relevant any longer. Or any of these other people that you keep mentioning, etc. And I mean, her answer to me was that, you know, this is a strange Islam that you present that we've never heard of previously. I referred her to the virtual mosque and our speeches and so on, and she actually looked at some of the speeches, Salman's speech about what legacy do we want to leave behind, and others, and she asked some questions. But the point is that there are other people who are reading this exchange between us. We don't know what effect it's having on them.
Is it on this discuss? On what thing? Is it on WhatsApp, where is this discuss?
In London.
No, how do you, is there an app?
You type in discuss.
Is there an app? Just type in discuss on Google.
Yeah, it's like a website. I'll send you, I'll circulate a link to the whole Jamaat. But the interesting thing was this. The interesting thing was this, that members of other groups who joined the discussion with great claims when it started, eventually petered out. The only people left answering the Christian objections were Lahori Ahmadis. And the point is this, that as we know this, it becomes our duty to take this message to as wide an audience as possible, and as you rightly say, to create and to teach our young members that if they want to answer any objection about Islam, then this is the Jamaat to go to. I mean, I'll give you another example. Someone in the same group said, they use bad language about the Holy Prophet Muhammad, some people, that he married this 6-year-old girl and so on. And I said, no, he didn't. And he said, here is a hadith that Hazrat Aisha said, I was playing with dolls and I was told to go in and marry. And I said, I was at a meeting here, and I must have been about 50 or 45 or something, and my mother called out, "Bachcha, come here. Child, come to me." And everyone started laughing. And she said, "Why are you laughing? He is my child. I don't care what age he is." So I said, just because Hazrat Aisha says that she was playing, it doesn't mean to say that she was 6 or 7 years old. Haven't you heard of metaphors? She was saying she was very young. Even now we say, these are the days when he or she is supposed to be playing around and enjoying themselves. Their parents have married them off. So I've mentioned two things which have come to mind. And the good thing is, sometimes I feel I'm wasting my time. But the good thing about these objections is, and I really like this, and that is that they improve my knowledge and understanding of Islam. I would not have known so many things, certainly even about the literature of our Jamaat, that I learned from trying to answer these objections. I mean, there is a young girl sitting here who's a thorn in my side. Because every time on Facebook I get a question from her. "Uncle Shahid, what about this? My friends are saying this." I won't tell you her name. If you look around and see someone baring their teeth, that's her. But I mean, it's good. It seems an active involvement in Islam, and it makes us think as well. And as you've seen, all our programs are broadcast on radio. And last year we had an offer from the Balalian Muslims in North America for the Ramadan, that they will broadcast our programs if we broadcast theirs. And we also had an offer from a very prominent Muslim in France who unfortunately is having a difficult time at the moment, and he would send us Dars of the Quran in French and we would broadcast it. Same with Facebook and YouTube and so on. So I mean, if you're younger people or you want to share the facilities we have, etc., we're more than happy. On Sunday morning at 9 o'clock we have the sort of thing that you tried to set up for North America. We have an Urdu discussion group, UK time 9 o'clock, from 9 to 10. And I mean, this morning we had a person from Australia, someone from Sweden, and then we had Azhar from Woking, Zahid from Nottingham, myself from Swindon, and we were the ones who were actually participating. And then I looked on the radio broadcast, and there were people from Germany and other places who were listening. And the point is that, no one can stop us from using these means of communication. So if you want to share our facilities, we'll be more than happy to show you how. If you want to send us stuff and for us to broadcast, we'd be happy to do that as well. We've been trying to, what happened to us was...
Thinking more along the lines of an inter-Jamaat relationship with the youth,
Yeah, but you can use these facilities, because what you can do is you can restrict membership to who you want to. For example, like Skype. You don't have to allow everyone to join your discussion group. On Skype, which is simultaneously broadcast, we only allow those people to speak that we know, and and that kind of thing. So it will be great if we can join together and share information and share knowledge, etc. at the same time. And I mean, the latest thing that this will, I think, please everyone, is that our the mosque in Srinagar had been closed up for a while, because when people went there, they were attacked and stoned and so on. Although it was renovated at the cost of about, I think, $100,000, that was what prompted people to start stoning the people going there for prayers. And we have a very active member called Basharat Salim in Jammu. He's a civil servant, and his latest posting is actually in Srinagar. So 2 days ago he opened the mosque for prayers, and he invited everyone, and he said, I'm here. So let's see if anyone tries to stop us. So a few people turned up, but now he started a campaign to contact everyone living in sort of commuting distance of that mosque, to encourage them to come at least for Jummah. And Mir Faisal is again in Srinagar. He's got a Canadian passport, but he spends less time in Canada than he does in there. Which is encouraging news that, and the caretaker in fact said that, look, it makes it difficult for me to guard the mosque if I'm the only one here. So if some of you come and it's being used, etc., then it's that much easier. So, even under those difficult conditions, because at the moment you may know, you may not know, Kashmir is, on the Indian side, is supposed to be a semi-independent country that's aligned to India. That was the original treaty. But since then, that treaty has been gradually eroded. And the Supreme Court, I think last week, Supreme Court of India last week decided that Article 35, I think it is, of the Indian Constitution, which gives Kashmir that special status, is unconstitutional. All states must have the same status. You can't pick and say, this one's got a special place. and that is leading to sort of riots and other things in Srinagar, making things difficult for people. But of course the first thing that happens is these days, as soon as you have riots, what's switched off? Internet and mobile phones. So everyone's become so dependent on internet and mobile phones that, you know, they don't know what to do. They look at this instrument on the table and they don't know that you have to pick it up and dial a number and you can still get through to people. My mobile is disconnected. What do I do? How do I contact people? What is there? Have you seen that? Your father used to use it, your grandfather used to use it. So, but even under those circumstances, the fact that they actually opened the mosque and half a dozen people or half a dozen families turned up there to say Jummah prayers is good news. Does anyone else want to say anything? Nasir Sahib? No? No? Now, I'm not going to ask you. I had enough of you this morning on the radio.
I'm just trying to remind tea time.
Oh, it's tea. Oh, in that case, as Azhar has said, it's tea time. We'll wrap up and have tea, and then we'll have Asr. Thank you very much.